back, and we're watching Breakfast Show on Nile TV International, coming up with one. For me, it's one of the most interesting segments because it deals with Egyptology, whether not only ancient Egypt, but even Islamic and Coptic Egypt and the various areas of the Egyptian history and fields, and to shed more light on some of the unknown wonders of these sites. We have with us Mr. Samir, and actually he is an Egyptologist, and welcome with us Mr. Samir Farid.
Samir Abass.
Samir Abass, excuse me.
So I'm very delighted to be with you today, and it's very obvious that you are very excited about the subject, you know, from the way you introduce the subject.
First of all, we need to know why they are called the forgotten or the hidden wonders of Egypt.
So, you know, answering the question why, you know, first I would like to tell you why I choose a subject. You know, so I choose a subject mainly because I was influenced by that from a Byzantine historian more than 1,000 years ago. His name is Philo. He made a list of the 7 ancient wonders and in the world. It wasn't ancient at that time, it was the 7 wonders of the world. And this list, which is known nowadays as the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The interesting fact that nothing of these wonders is existing today except the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and which is the oldest one of them as well. And not only, but I have a feeling that, you know, this historian, which is he haven't seen the wonders himself, all of them, because he wrote about something which is like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is probably not exist. And but his list became very famous, and until now, after more than 1,000 years, the countries which is claimed to have remaining of these wonders, it could be like some bases of columns there. They built a great historical phenomenon and industrial around it. So that was my influence, and that's how I can come to an answer to your questions. Why 7 and why the 7 hidden wonders of Egypt? Because Egypt has a unique characters, had a great geographical location in the center of the world, the ancient world and the modern world as well, and that attracted attention of different civilizations. Of course, the ancient Egyptian civilization is rooted and based here, but Greeks and Romans and Persians and Islamic civilizations, Christian civilization as well, you know, they have a great history here, which is mean that from almost every civilization in the whole history of mankind, you can find dedication, you can find buildings, you can find monuments and history in Egypt here. Other words, Egypt is like a world museum for represent the different civilizations all over the world. And in choosing the 7 hidden wonders of Egypt, the word hidden normally attracts the attention of people, and I use the word hidden because these are really, some of them, they are really hidden wonders, which is very few people knowing about them, not only from the international community, even from locals here. So the list I have, which is, I have 7, you know, I stick, it was so difficult.
You choose 7.
Exactly, and I will talk about 7. It was so difficult to choose only 7 because there is many others, but the reason why I stick with the number 7, just to make it similar to the 7 ancient wonders, so to get it famous as well. So I classify them according to the history timeline, you know, the Stonehenge, that's number 1. I will just go briefly on them now, and then we'll give like detailed explanation.
Can we take them one by one, so that instead of listing them, we can start like number 1 and we start talking. So which is the first one? You said Stonehenge.
Stonehenge.
Yeah. Would you tell us a bit about? That's in Nubia, isn't it?
Exactly. No, and I'm very glad that you know about the Egyptian Stonehenge. Because normally when I mention the Stonehenge, it comes to people's mind, not the Egyptian, is the English one, the one in Britain. And the quite interesting thing that the one in Britain is 2,000 years younger than the Egyptian one. Our Stonehenge is like 4,500 BC, which is mean that's over 6,000 years old. And found in the middle of nowhere of Sahara Desert, of the Western Egyptian desert, nearly 120 kilometers from Abu Simbel. And that was a great evidence of there was a very sophisticated, organized community, which could be one of the oldest or even the oldest civilizations of sub-Sahara desert in Africa. It is a historical, it is an astronomical device for predicting the rain season, because there was rain back in that time in the desert there, the rain season, the cultivation season, and the harvest season. So In compared to the British or the English Stonehenge, it is smaller in size, but 2,000 years older. The one in England, which is known all over the world, everybody knows very well, you know, what is a Stonehenge, which is mean the one in England, receive nearly 1.3 million tourists every year, and hardly anybody come to see our Stonehenge. And that's why I like to name it as one of the 7 hidden wonders of Egypt. The Stonehenge now is not displaying its original location because it was for safety, and it was better to have it relocated and now display in the garden of the Nubian Museum in Aswan.
Yes.
Okay, you said they are not, they are hidden or they are forgotten. Why?
So they are hidden or forgotten because first, we should blame the international media for not putting a spot of light on these wonderful buildings, and that is give us as Egyptians more responsibility as well. It is mainly because of media. You know, the Great Pyramid, it is one of the greatest.
We have photos of the pyramids now on the screen.
Yeah, that's the Bend Pyramid actually.
Exactly, that is the second. That's the second one, which is I was planning to talk about.
Yeah.
The second one is Dashur area, and you know, just answering your question first is. They are forgotten mainly because media. You know, there is not much media interest in that, and all of these ancient seven wonders, they are famous because of the classical, because he was a classical historian, which is introduced them. So I will give you an example: the new library of Alexandria, which has been built nearly 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And nobody expected that the new library of Alexandria would be that famous. But I grew up watching the library being built. I used to take people to visit the library when it's still under construction. Ismail Sragdin, the manager of the library, he made a great campaign, promotion campaigns, and the library was known all over the world, and that's how it became very famous now. It is mainly about promotions and media. That's giving. Now,
I'd like, before we go to this, the Dashur pyramids, because of course we have so many topics and the duration is limited, to ask you now, the Stonehenge itself, how does it work? Is it more like a shadow clock?
Yes, exactly. You know, it depends. Yeah, it's like a shadow clock, and and that was, by the way, it wasn't standing by its own. There was an evidence there was a village there or a town there, and the quite interesting thing that they have an urban landscaping there for their town square and streets. You know, we are talking about that was happening in Egypt more than 6,000 years ago.
Yes.
So moving to the second one on our list, Dashur. So Dashur lies close to Cairo. That will be from Giza pyramid will be like an hour drive more or less, and Dashur is famous for the military base there, but it is like a training base there, and there is an oil well as well there in Dashur. But there is 2 amazing pyramids built by a great king. His name is Senefru, which is not well known. Senefru, he is the father of Khufu, the founder.
Cheops, yeah.
Exactly, Cheops is a Greek version of the name. Cheops, of the founder of the Great Pyramid.
Yes.
And among them, which is the famous Bend Pyramid, which is, if I will choose one of the pyramids of Egypt, the one which is I like it most, it will be the Bend Pyramid, because it still has most of its casing layer intact on it, which is you cannot find it in any other pyramids.
Now, before we talk about the architecture of it, actually, there are so many theories about it being bent. Some say that it's related to the Ben theory and the phoenix. Others say no, it's a mistake. Now, what's your point of view, and which theory you're more towards?
So, as you mentioned, there is a very strong debate about why it takes different angles, because it starts with 54 degrees and closes shifted to 43 degrees. The height of the pyramid now is like 105, but it was aimed to be like 120 meters height. So the most common theory is there was a problem in a pyramid built shortly before the Bend Pyramid in Meidum, which is built by Senefru or finished by Senefru as well, and the pyramid collapsed shortly after finished, and that was because of the steep angles, and that's why Senefru, he stopped the work and he closed the angles to make sure that his pyramid will be intact. So,
okay, and moving to the third hidden or forgotten monument.
So the third one, I choose a very famous attraction in Armenia known as Tal al-Amarna. Tal al-Amarna was one day the capital of Egypt. And I brought like 2 illustrations or 2 photos for this topic, for this subject. One of them showing a 3D reconstruction of the city and its temple, and the other one showing the famous King Akhenaten and his wife Nefertiti. So the Akhenaten and Nefertiti, its own, they are selling very well, and they will help us in attracting world attention to this great location. So talking about the ancient Egyptian capitals, so hardly any capital today has been survived and in its original condition. For example, Memphis or Mitrahina, when you go there, there is almost nothing, because the village today is built on the ruins of the ancient city, except the small museum there. So when you go to Luxor, you don't see the palaces of the kings. You don't see the houses of the ancient Egyptian people anymore, except for the temples, which is in the East Bank. But when you go to Tel Amarna, so it is a site which is 10 kilometers long, 5 kilometers wide. That was a city was built in only 4 years, 3,350 years ago, and it was abandoned shortly because of political situation, shortly after being built and after the death of Akhenaten, and has been leveled, destroyed, but still the ruins there, and there is reconstruction for the big temple, for the small temple, for Nefertiti house, and there is a small version of the Valley of the Kings there as well, and there is also reconstructions of some of the local houses and merchants' houses as well.
As we're talking about Amarna, it's worth mentioning, if you explain to us its different style, because there is a type of realism or semi-realism in it, and then there is the exaggeration form of the royal family, and these are two characteristic features of the Amarna art. So would you tell us a bit about that?
So I'm very, very actually happy because you made like your readings. But
she's an expert in it.
I wish that they could display the pictures, like even if it's rotating and we can comment on them, that would be nice.
Exactly. So, first of all, talking about that theory about the realism versus idealism in the Amarna period. That's one of the strongest debating subjects in archaeology. If we have the round table, which has like 100 archaeologists and Egyptologists, they will maybe each one of them will come with a different opinion. And I made a thesis about actually this topic when I was in the college, and which didn't like by my professor because that was against his opinion, but the interesting, from my point of view, it is an idealism, not realism, but from completely different perspective. And really, we can dedicate a complete different like meeting or interview for this topic alone. But that's even the different art style can attract people attention for that.
Now they've placed the statue of Nefertiti and Akhenaten. Would you like to comment on the pictures?
Yes, so Akhenaten is one of the in history he's considered one of the unique kings from historical and religious point of view. So he was, in recorded history, he is the first human being to call for the worship of one God. And that's, of course, from our religious perspective, Abraham is older, but this is not recorded history. That has been kept in our religious book. And the important thing about Akhenaten and his period, that, in the best way to introduce this period and this area for the whole world by making a good movie. So.
Okay, I need to ask you a question before moving on to the other monuments. The maintenance of these monuments. What's your estimation? Because nowadays I see the government is depending on local contractors rather than antiquities experts to make the maintenance of the monuments.
Rasha, I'm very appreciate your question because of that's one of the challenging questions about. These monuments has lasted for over 4,000 years, and the question is if it will last for another 4,000, or because of the industrial world, because of the human activities today, because of the mistreating of these monuments, we will not keep it for the coming generation. So the local contractors, when they work under the supervision of the Egyptian Antiquities Department. But the problem we have is finance, which is that's again like a national problem. That is something which is very costly, and I think from my perspective that the concern of the Egyptian Antiquities Department now, their main focus is the highlights, the important sites. Still, some of the hidden treasures of Egypt is still not in their priority list, except for the Wales Valley, which is
But
come to.
a lot of these that you've mentioned actually are UNESCO sites, like Wadi Hitain, like the Mu'izz Street,
like the Giza
pyramids, yes, as well.
Yeah.
Now, because we've only got almost like 5 minutes, and I want you to talk to us about Wadi Hitan.
So there was just one topic, which is tennis.
Yes.
That we'll keep that aside now, and then we'll move.
And then, if we have time, we can go back. Because actually,
we're running out of time.
Yeah,
no problem.
And we have the photos here.
This is tennis. That's Ramses II.
That's just.
Can we have the Wadi Hitan pictures?
Sure.
That would be nice.
Wadi Hitan, or the Wales Valley, it is 40 million years old. One of the great geological discoveries in Egypt. It has hundreds of whales' bones, has been trapped at the shoreline because it was like a sea on an ocean shoreline, because there was a mangrove forest at the shorelines, and they have been trapped between the channels created by the mangrove forest. Because they have been caught in a low tide, they couldn't turn around and go back, and that's why they died and silted over.
They have Wadi Hitan, sorry for the... So would you like to comment on that picture? That's of that whale?
Actually, I don't see the picture.
It's the one for the whale with the legs and the...
So in around 1990, there was a professor from Michigan. He discovered a very unique whale there. The whale has a foot. And that helped greatly to prove a very important thing in the evolution theory. That's whales has been evolved from land-based mammals, not the other way around.
Yeah. They have legs.
They have trace of legs. Exactly. Which is mean that there was like symbolically, it was like a cow and moved to the water and became a whale. That's simply like that. And there is another site which is in Pakistan, which has the same importance as well. But there's the only two sites all over the world to prove.
The National Geographic channel has mentioned the Wadi Hitan or the Wales Valley as one of the most important around the world. But here in Egypt, not so many people know about it.
And I'm really glad we have this actually topic today in our show, and very glad I choose this as one of the wonders, 7 hidden wonders. The problem, is first of all how to make it to Wadi Hitan. So you have to have a 4x4 car to make it to Wadi Hitan, and I would prefer to keep it as it is. And first of all, how many Egyptians will have a 4x4 car or can afford a 4x4 car? But on the other way, if we pave the road for regular cars to make it there, so in the valley you can walk and you can easily pick things. So those who make it to the valley, they should know exactly the importance of the valley. Otherwise, better to keep it difficult to reach in this time, only for those who should show great interest. Exactly, for preservation.
To keep the place as
exactly, to keep the place. And that's why it's difficult to make it there.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, the time of the episode is out. We have more to talk about, and hopefully we'll talk about more issues with you.
Have a second episode for that.
Yes, we need actually more time.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Samir Abass, Egyptologist Samir Abass. Thank you very much for this interview.
And thank you very much. Thank you, Roshan.
Thank you
for today.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Gina, and please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV International, as well as make sure to follow us on Breakfast Show tomorrow with a new team. Thank you very much and have a good day.